Well, hello there. How is everyone? You amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. I hope you're all well on this stupendous Saturday. You're looking absolutely amazing. I hope you have an amazing weekend. And I hope you also join me live tomorrow night as we start talking about some of these documents and what they have done to the Idaho 4 case in the aftermath of Brian Kohberger's sentencing. Have these documents indeed answered the questions that so many people felt they would, or have they in fact caused more? Now, in this video, we're going to talk briefly about this, which is Brian Enton done a interview with Steve Goncalves. And basically, this is about Steve Goncalves saying how Kristi received threatening text messages at the sentencing. And after this, obviously, I've got to periodically stop it while we go through it. You understand why, so I don't get struck down with furious anger. But then I'm going to have a chat, a quick discussion about the people around true crime. So let's have a quick listen to this.
When you turned that podium and I was in the courtroom, it was like, man, it's on now. I mean, that was really a moment. I first want to ask you, though, and I noticed this. I was sitting behind you guys, and I saw Kristi, your wife, pull out.
I will just say, with respect, and I did a video on this the other day, I felt that Steve Goncalves kept himself quite composed. I don't know whether he had been put under warning. I know that other members of the Goncalves family had spoken after the hearing and basically said that they didn't speak because if they'd have said what they wanted to say, then they'd have likely been removed from the courtroom. And we obviously heard some other members of the Goncalves family say their piece. Some people have felt that it was brilliant, that they really did put Brian Kohberger in their place. And look, if Brian Kohberger is guilty of this crime, which he very well could be, yes, it probably did. The downside is I don't think it would have landed as they would have expected it or wanted it to. But let's carry on.
Phone and looked sort of disturbed, and then you guys called the deputy over, and then he was looking at your phone, and I kind of figured something bad was going on, and it turns out that it was a threatening text message that she had received during the actual sentencing while the victim impact statements were going on. And I don't want to read.
And there we go. There's the actual threat. Sitting near you in court and watching you is a joke. You know that Brian is innocent. Making threats to Brian about getting, you can see the word on the screen, in prison was very silly. I am in contact with a lot of serial killers, including BTK, and I've been put in contact with a wannabe serial killer who is in Moscow, Idaho, and I've given him your address. Don't need to listen to any more. You understand what's going on there. You understand what's going on there. So that's the text message that Kristi Goncalves received during the sentencing hearing. Now, look, all throughout this case, we have criticised the Goncalves family at times. And it has not been because we lack empathy. It's not that we feel anything beyond that. My frustration with the Goncalves family, Steve Goncalves, was, and I've said multiple times, I'd have probably been exactly the same. I could have even been worse than Steve Goncalves. The flip side of that coin is I'm not in the same situation as Steve Goncalves, so it does put me in a position where I can kind of look at his behaviour and the things that he has said and that he has done. And I feel that Steve Goncalves, looking back, had been manipulated. He had been manipulated by those in power. They knew that he was talking. They knew that he would go out and do interviews. They knew that he would speak to anybody who would listen and he would share information. And I believe that certain piece of information, some of it being untrue, was handed off to him so he would share it. And in effect, he added to this shitstorm of media and social media other platforms that formed, in essence, a huge army of biased people against someone who had not at that stage been proven to be guilty and was going through a process that should have seen him being given the benefit of the doubt. and it didn't, and that was frustrating. And I could see moving forward the impact that could have potentially had on the journey towards trying to obtain justice for not only Kaylee but the others who lost their lives that night. And in hindsight, I believe that had this entire situation been handled differently, then we may have seen it track differently. And we may have actually seen something that resembled some form of justice. And some people may think that what has happened is justice. But I don't. I'm pretty sure that Steve Goncalves and Kristi Goncalves do not think that Kaylee got justice. And I think the vast majority of people who are decent people would probably agree that this trial should have gone to court. It absolutely should have gone to court. It should have gone to trial. And again, I've said this previously, allow the chips to fall where they may. But what we're seeing here is when you are on social media, when you're in the public spotlight, and you have an opinion that differs from others, people descend into hatred. They descend into disgusting fucking hatred. And this, and you know, we, like I say, we sit here and we will disagree with Steve Goncalves in the way that he's said things, because he said things that have been incorrect. He said things that have been incorrect. And, you know, where possible, you know, people are going to say, but that's wrong. That is wrong. It just, you know, we understand and appreciate your loss and we have empathy for your loss. But what you're saying, what you're doing in this instance is wrong. And I think that we can say that. We have a right to an opinion. But I see the same thing. I said, I over the last few hours alone, I've received text messages because I'm doing videos about Brian Coburn and asking questions that have been raised by these docs that are being released, that people want my children dead. That's the emails that I'm receiving. And it's not just one, it's not just two. I'm talking about multiple emails. You know, I've been threatened with death. I've been threatened with this, that, and the other. Called every name under the sun. I've had to block multiple people in comments for not only trying to abuse and threaten myself, but abuse and threaten those in the comment section. It's got so bad where, you know, when people turn around and say, oh, you're just blocking, you're trying to stop people from talking. No, trying to stop people who do this shit, because this is fucking insane. We're talking about a family who love them or hate them, love some of the stuff they've done, hate some of the stuff they've done. Their daughter was murdered. She was killed. And they're actually in the sentencing hearing. And the guy has pled guilty. So, you know, we can have a stance whereby we think this should have gone to trial and we've still got questions. But this fucking individual goes as far as to say that they're in contact with a wannabe serial killer and they're going to send them to their home. These are the people, and these are the people who with the same mentality that I am getting out of comments, albeit from the other side of the argument, because both sides of the argument have these nasty motherfuckers in it. The people who believe Brian Kohberger is guilty, they have people who are just as sick, twisted, and disgusting as the people who believe that Brian Kohberger is guilty of this crime. But this should not be tolerated. Now, in comments and yada, 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 it will not be tolerated. It won't be. Unless you can have an adult conversation and be respectful of those around you, then you're not fucking welcome here. That is as simple as that. No ifs, no buts, no maybes, no second chances, no nothing. You can fuck off. And your emails, if I read the first two words and I can tell the way that email is going, and I'm not reading it all, and I'm just going to block the email. So that's pointless as well. So carry on wasting your fucking time. But this is where this case, and this isn't just this case, this is true crime in general. This is true crime in general, that when people don't say what the other person wants to hear, they immediately get their heckles up and go on the attack and become these heinous, grotesque tossers. And before anybody comes at me and says, yeah, but you're doing the same thing, you're criticising this, that, and the other. No, there's a huge difference between criticising where criticism is due, asking questions where questions exist, and not just accepting things because it makes these people feel better. Okay? And that's it. Let me know down below what you think. People can be disgusting people, and we shouldn't listen to them anymore. Love you all. Mwah.